What's going on, everybody? I'm Pastor Josh, and you are listening to another episode of the Preach That podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Preach That podcast. If you watched the last episode, this is episode 34, pretty sure. So if you watched episode 33, I recorded on the 4th of July at like 8 o'clock at night because we had this is my wife, Allie, by the way. I was getting to the point where I was going to introduce her, but then I started talking to her, so I figured I should probably make it make sense. But I mentioned you in the last one. We've been so busy, you probably haven't had a chance to even listen to it, let alone watch it on YouTube or anything. But
well, I started it, and then you asked me if I watched the end, and I said I started it.
Yeah. But so in the intro to that episode, it was a sermon that I had preached a couple weeks ago. I mentioned you, and I mentioned Brother James. Haven't been able to get a hold of him, not a hold of him, but get together with him recently. Pastor Daryl, just going through all the people that I haven't had on in a little while or have had on before that I want to have on again. And so yesterday or Friday, I think it was yesterday, Saturday, we're recording this on Sunday after church. I mentioned to you that I'm probably going to have to stay at the church at some point on Sunday to record an intro for my podcast, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, hey, let's do one together. I said, that's a great idea because I just mentioned to you the other day. So here we are.
But we have no idea what we're going to talk about.
We have a little bit of an idea. So we talked about this yesterday. We discussed coming out here. And then I was doing sermon prep all day yesterday. You were doing mama duties all day yesterday. What did we do in the first part of the day? Well, worship practice. You had to do worship leader stuff yesterday.
At a funeral, worship practice.
Yes, you went to a funeral. So you were a best friend, a worship leader, a mom, and a pastor's wife all yesterday. I'm surprised. She just told me to hurry up because she needs caffeine. So she's doing good though. I'm proud of you. But no, I was excited whenever you said you wanted to do this again or suggested this idea. And what you had mentioned was, which obviously they've seen the title of this already because that's what I'm going to title this episode, is Navigating the Waters of Life. And I like that. I like analogies. That's how my brain works. Everything I say to you is an analogy, basically.
Right.
80% of my part of our conversations, that's kind of like, and that's just how my brain works. It's just who I am. So I liked that. And it's an interesting topic because nobody's on the same ocean.
Right.
Here I go with my taking this. I'm going to take this analogy as far as I can go. But nobody, people cross paths on certain ocean, but we're deep in the ocean of parenting.
Yeah.
We're deep in the ocean of, we've been married. What's today? The 9th. So I'm trying to do math in my head. In 16 days, we'll have been married for 8 years.
Right.
And so, which to the people watching this have been married for 2 years, man, we've been married 4 times as long. They're doing great. But then there's going to be somebody that watches us that's married for 40 years.
Right.
And we're still babies in their eyes. And so nobody's on the same ocean. We occasionally see oh, hey, there's Jake and Chelsea over there on the parenting ocean, but they're dealing with their own waves.
Right.
And we're dealing with Caleb, and we're dealing with all the other waves.
We're dealing with tsunamis.
Yeah. That kid, for a little 2-year-old, he produces some tsunamis.
Right.
So this is a topic that everyone has their own opinions and their own style and their own thing. But I think even though we're not all on the same ocean, we can still help each other tread water, or we can help each other sail on, or we can help each other repair our boats or repair our engines or whatever part of the analogy you want to use for it.
Right.
What waters do you see us on right now? What do you think? Where do you think we're at? What waters are you personally navigating the most right now? So
I feel like my answers are clouded because I'm drained.
Yeah.
Sundays are hard to do podcasts.
They are.
Because, first of all, if we're talking about life and ministry, it's fun, okay? And I get it. We have enjoyable conversation and, we laugh and we cry and all the things. But I feel like today I'm so drained because we had church and that it's good, but you pour out. And then right after church, we had attended to church members who were in car accident. And so we had that. And then I had a phone call on the way back to here that was just a counseling thing. And so I just feel like I'm ready for a nap. So I feel
that sounds great.
I know. I feel like I'm maybe
Thank you for watching this episode.
I feel like maybe I'm not going to be as energetic, but, and I don't want to sound negative because I just don't feel like, I feel like maybe right now I feel like, oh my goodness, I'm exhausted. So your mind can tend to go into like a, I don't know. But no, in all seriousness, I feel like lately with summer, for those mothers
Yeah.
who are doing it full time in the summer, I don't care if you were a teacher and now you're at home with your kids or whatever that looks like, your life is shaken up. If you have children at all in the
Yeah.
summer, whether that's new childcare or figuring out how to get them to point A and B when you still work, whatever that looks like, summers are exhausting and they are expensive. Oh
so
my
true.
goodness. So I feel like what I'm navigating now is the balance of behaviors in our home. Like,
yeah.
I feel like it's nonstop. Summer, like, is a lot of fun and I'm not ready for school. But at the same time, I'm like, you need to go back to school.
Just ready for the forced structure.
Right.
that
And like,
school
that's
brings.
the thing. It's like, we have structure and we have all these play dates and all these things. But it's just like, no matter what you do in summer, no matter how routine you are, everything you offer is fun.
Right.
Like everything that you, whether we go to a pool with a friend or you have friends over, it's like, first of all, they act like they haven't eaten in 3 years every day.
That's no joke.
So I'm like,
For real.
I stock the fridge and it's gone in a day.
Yeah.
Or I stock the pantry and it's gone in a week. Like,
Yeah.
just little things like that. Like, even when it is structured and like, I plan to have chaos. I plan to
Right.
have organized chaos of a play date. And
Yes.
it's summer. So I feel like right now I'm navigating
That's true.
summer behavior.
Right. And it doesn't help for us. We just moved a month
Right.
ago. So this is the first time we've had a public conversation since we moved and
Mm-hmm.
everything in the new house. And I mean, that brings on its own challenge. We're trying to figure out, like, we're settled in a sense, but at the
Right.
same time, like, I still don't know where half the stuff in the kitchen's at. So I'm
Right.
trying to unload the dishwasher. I'm like, where does this bowl go?
Right. That's the thing. Like, I think people say all the time when you move, like, just settle in. I don't feel like you're
It
actually
takes a
settled
solid
in.
6 months, I feel like.
Right. Or even a year. I'm sorry. But like, we bought a house and it's big. Okay. Like, obviously, we wanted a bigger space to host and
Right.
to have people from the church over and youth group and all the things. And this place absolutely, like, it accommodates
Perfect for
all
that.
that. Right. But it was not our style at all. Okay. And I know that seems like a little selfish to say, but things were either not our style or just like really poorly done.
The aspects that were our style
Right.
were the easier
Right.
things to change.
Right. So I was like, okay, great. Like, the bathrooms, super simple. Like, they were already updated, but just maybe not as
Yeah.
like our vibe, you know?
New mirror, shelf on the wall,
Right.
done.
Simple.
I think I got all the bathrooms done in like a day or day and a half.
Right. Simple. And we'll give Ryan credit too because he came over and helped.
Ryan, yep, thank you, Ryan. I don't know if he'll watch this or not, but he
Right. Well,
came
he
in-
should.
He put all the faucets in and
Right.
mostly replaced the sink.
Right. But
upstairs.
those little things, easy. Easy.
Right.
But then you have like a huge kitchen. And it's not even just like, you know,
Yeah.
it's not our style. Like, it was like the cabinets
Right.
weren't shutting. It's not like lined up properly. Like, just a ton of hassle.
The cabinet doors would fall off when you open them.
Right. So I feel like,
Also, shout out to Ryan for helping me replace the hinges on the cabinets.
right. So I feel like lately, I don't know, our life's crazy, but
Yeah.
a good crazy. We still like are doing our thing,
Yeah.
but it's just chaotic.
That's been my biggest struggle recently, getting the house organized and stuff, doing the projects and making sure that I'm being productive every day, and also being a dad and a husband. I'm a pastor. Yeah, I'm a construction worker, foreman, all that kind of stuff. But those dad, husband, follower of Christ, husband, father, in that order. That's how it comes. And so, but along with being a husband comes the projects. Along with being a dad comes getting the kids' toys and stuff fixed and set up, or the play set put together. Like, so it's just been a lot of stuff lately, and that's been the hardest thing to navigate for me. Is okay, when do I tell the kids that they need to go find something to do because I'm working on the kitchen island and building that? And then when do I stop what I'm doing and go and help even though I'm in the middle of something? And when my brain works, if I get fixated on something, I can't stop until it's done. And so then I try to be with the kids and then I feel guilty because I'm thinking about this. And it's difficult.
Right. And then you can, I think really what this podcast is going to be about is like how to keep a sane marriage when you're navigating life. Because
that's the craziest part, because I feel like our marriage is like gone up another notch.
Right, because it
through all of
has.
this.
But how? Like, you know,
Right.
people say that, but then like you don't really digest and you don't really
Yeah.
dig deep. And I feel like that's what kind of wisdom I think we can share
Yeah.
today, because we had no really topic of discussion. I just said, well, why would you use a sermon? Let's just do a podcast. Not saying your sermons aren't great, because they are, but like maybe we can record something.
People love conversations. I love conversations. I think the last two episodes were sermons of mine. So I'm glad that you suggested, because I wanted to break up the monotony of it and not just be another sermon. And which, again, I'm not saying that I don't enjoy preaching or that I think my sermons stink, but it's just good. It's good to break up the pattern every once in a while. Right.
But I feel like, as we talk, I'm like, well, yeah, I feel like our life has had a lot of moving pieces. And I feel like even on Friday, that's your church day. That's typically days that we do videos and stuff. And I stay back with the kids, you do your stuff. So that way, we're not drowning on Saturday. And then Saturdays I do worship practice. And just I feel like lately, all of our help with the children has gone down significantly, right. Which not because, anything negative, but it's just the reality of life. Right. They have moving pieces too. And so all these moving pieces, and then it's okay, wait a minute. How do we still balance our children? And I can highlight points in my mind, just even okay, we talk about projects, and I'm sometimes I feel man, are we failing these kids? Are we only focused on this and not this? And I know we're not, because when I woke up one day, Caleb was like, Mommy, look at what Daddy did for you. It's beautiful. I'm so proud of him. And I just I love the fact that my boys are seeing, how you can use your hands to make something beautiful, but also how you can bless your wife, because Peter says it all the time. He's a mini you, and he knows, he's like, Mommy, I know, he told me one day, I know you're having a bad day, so I'm going to go upstairs and just have some quiet time. And I was like, wait a minute, does he think that I need to not be around him? I kind of I think was reading into that a little bit, but I think he's just noticed Daddy will be like, I know you're having a hard time. Why don't you go upstairs and just kind of decompress? And I got the kids, and I think he was doing that. I'll take the brothers upstairs and we'll go play, just being a mini you. But I was like, wait a minute, have I made my kids feel like they're not wanted? And so I kind of read into that a little bit, and then I just, by his behavior and by the boys, I could tell that that's not at all what he was doing. And then I was singing downstairs. I was singing just some of the worship songs, and he peeks his little head over the railing. He's like, Mommy, you have such a beautiful voice. And just little things like that happen in the midst of a crazy week. I'm like, we're doing this right. And so I think that, man, as a parent, you can really feel there are days that I have been man, I am failing. What am I doing as a mom? Right. And then there's other days where I feel man, I couldn't have been any of a better mom if I tried to be.
There's days that if Brandon wasn't sitting on the couch next to me watching our show, I'd be sitting there crying because I feel like I was such a bad dad.
Right.
And there's days like yesterday that whenever you're doing worship practice and we're in the back in the fellowship hall playing Frisbee, just having an absolute blast. All three of us just running around playing tag, playing, just having fun. And you can't hey, we're done. I'm keep practicing. We're having fun back here. And so, it's the roller coaster. It's navigating the waters of life.
Right. I don't know. I guess to me, I think it's, as a parent, you have responsibility outside of your kids.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that we think we can't wear any other hats besides being a mom in those moments, or besides being a dad. This is not just moms. This is dads too. You think, okay, well, I have these boys that I have to raise. So the minute I walk in the door, the only hat I can wear is dad. That's not true. But I feel when you put on other hats, you still have to keep in mind your children, and you have to balance it. I don't know. I feel we are to teach our children, and I think that we do that very well. Yeah. But I think a lot of times we can be good at really one thing. Wow, I'm a really bomb mom, but I'm a really terrible wife. I gave all my energy to my children today, and I gave nothing to my spouse. That's kind of hard to hear, but it's true. I mean, I feel if we looked back on our marriage, a couple of years ago, maybe more than a couple of years ago. Yeah. We've really developed 5 years ago, if I would have looked back around that time.
I'd say so.
I would have thought I'm a really great mom, but I am an okay wife.
Yeah.
And it's not because I didn't love you, but it's because every ounce of my energy went to my kids, and I thought that's all I could do, or that's all I had to offer. That by the time you got home, in the best way, I didn't really want anything to do with you. And it wasn't I didn't love you. I wasn't happy to see you, but I was I am so burnt out. Don't talk to me.
Yeah.
And I think that our marriage is so close because we've taken those little moments that we have. You don't have to have your kids shipped off for an overnight or go away for a weekend to prioritize your spouse. It is in the little moments of in the car when you go to Burger King because you have nothing at home and you just have to rush to get somewhere and then go to your next point or your next destination for the day, and you reach over and you hold your spouse's hand. It's in those little things throughout the day that I feel that you unify. I mean, you don't have to just be intimate 24/7 to have a good marriage, okay? Yeah. Like, it's intimacy, in your day, communication, reaching out to the other person. I think a lot of times we're good at stopping now and just being like, how are you doing?
I feel like we talk about our love languages a lot, and my number one is physical touch. My number two is words of affirmation.
Right.
Yours are acts of service.
Yep.
And quality time. I almost said gifts. That's probably number three.
Right.
But acts of service and quality time. And so I feel like we have gotten a lot better over the years of loving each other that way more often than not.
Right. And communicating if that changed. I remember, what was my number one before? I forget, but it shifted. And there was a season.
I think it was quality time 1, acts of service 2. I think it kind of flipped.
Right. And then I was like, hello.
There was a little while that I think receiving gifts was number 1 or 2.
Right. And I remember being like, he doesn't get me anymore. And I had to say, like, I think that my love language is shifting a little bit. And I think when you almost master a skill in a way, and I hate to be like that, but it's kind of true.
Yeah.
You kind of sense like a lack in another area. And I think as women, we don't like to communicate that. And so
Nobody does.
Right. And so I think sometimes it's just like, you got to be like, hey, you're so good at loving me in this way, but I feel like I'm in a season where for whatever, it could be anything. I don't care what it is. It could be your job is demanding in this area that's, draining you in this, and you need your spouse to step it up in that way. And so I remember going to him and being like, hey, listen, things are shifting in my life. Okay. And I need you to love me in this way. And we communicated about that. Yep. That changed, and it helps. And so I think that just communication, but it's funny that you say like our marriage is elevated, because if you sat down around a table with married people and you said, okay, let's all put things in a pot, and somebody were to pick up, okay, moving with 3 children, full renovation of a house, ministry, 2 full-time jobs, all these things, they'd be like, I don't want that, and put it back in the bowl, because they know what that tends to bring. Yeah. And I feel like it's been nothing but blessing. I feel like when you're obedient to the Lord, that does not mean that you're not going to be given a project, okay? Right. But it does mean that in everything you do, you're going to be blessed for it, and you're going to see blessing. And I feel like since we've walked through the house, I'm not going to pretend that we haven't had moments where I literally cried thinking, oh my goodness, this is too big for us. Right. Or moments that I was like, Josh, I'm so over this, we made a mistake. Or calling you and be like, babe, I think I'm failing. Even yesterday when you came home from, and it's funny, I could tell you were in the presence of the Lord, and we never talked about this because it got super late at night. And so we're going to talk about it now. So this is real time conversation. But
let's do it.
You had come home. I was so angry. Like I just felt so angry, and I texted a girlfriend. I literally said, I feel like I'm failing as a mother, and I just literally need to run away. Like I am drowning, and I can feel myself drowning, and just Caleb is Caleb, and I love him so much, but raising him is very hard. And we joke with grandparents all the time. Like, seriously, that kid's really difficult.
So if you don't know, if we haven't talked about it before, Caleb is our 2.5-year-old youngest son. We've got 3 boys, Peter, Zeke, Caleb, and Caleb is 2.5. And Spitfire is about the only way. And we don't say that the way that the average, I feel like a lot of parents would call one of their kids a Spitfire son.
Right.
He is so unpredictable.
And stubborn.
And he'll say, I want to ride in the black truck with daddy. So I have a truck and it's black. So I have a work truck and a black truck. He always wants to ride in the black truck. So I'll get him and carry him. I want to ride in mommy's van. So then I'll take him back to the van. I want to ride in daddy's black truck. So I'll take him to the black truck. And it can be, I want to sit at this seat at the kitchen table. No, I want to sit at that. No, I want to sit at this. And he just, sometimes it feels like he lives to make our lives difficult.
Right. And before somebody jumps in the comments and says, well, you just need to not give in to your child or whatever else.
Right.
Trust me. We don't need advice on that. Okay. Just hear us out. Okay. Yeah. Like, We get it.
I've gotten to the point now where he gets to pick twice. And then after that, nope, this is what you said.
Right.
This is what you get.
Right. And any method, like, I can't tell you how many family members are like, he's you, Allie. Like, this is what we did for you. And I'm like, he's worse than me. Like, I remember me as a child, okay? Maybe not at 2.
I can't wait to see Brandon's comments on the YouTube whenever he watches this.
I don't care. And Tanta will watch this because I'm on here.
Yeah.
And she watches you anyways, but
and
she
hi,
loves you the
Deanna,
most.
because I know you're watching because Allie's on it.
Yeah. Hi, Deanna. And she knows Caleb's.
Yeah.
Okay. So Caleb's just really hard. Well, my Tanta told me a method. I'm not going to blast it because people have their opinions on parenting and I'm not about to just, no. Like, but she gave me this method. She's like, okay, when he does this, do this. I'm like, okay, I'll try it.
Got this.
Yeah, whatever.
I love it. This is going to work.
Right.
We're going to turn a corner.
She's like, oh, honey, I do this for all my kids. And, you know, when you were little, you were difficult, but I loved you so much.
We've been there and seen her do this with her kids.
Right. And it works.
Yeah.
And so I tried it, okay? When I tell you the reaction was, I like it. I love this. Like, he loved the discipline.
Yes.
And not in like the, okay, I'll listen. No. He was like full on.
Thank you. Discipline me again, please.
Right. And I'm like, so I sent a video to my Tanta and I said, oh, look, it didn't work. And so I just keep trying to find new things that like we can try with him. But just yesterday in particular was just a Caleb day.
Yeah.
Just Caleb in a mood day.
Yep.
And just everything that he could do, he was doing. And
Yeah.
Zeke wasn't feeling good. We went on the lake Friday. So Peter was the ear infection the one day, or like not even ear infection, but like the water ear stuff. And then Zeke had it. So he was fussy and whiny. The house was just trashed. It was just one of those days where you didn't touch the house for a couple days.
Right.
So you're coming in, you're like, okay, there's sawdust everywhere. There's sand everywhere. Like, I don't even know where my kitchen's at. Like the upstairs, like where's our laundry? We don't have underwear. Like just everything is piled up. And so I told myself, like, we even had a great conversation about this. I was like, okay, you go do your stuff. I'll cook. I'll clean. I got the kids. Like, we'll meet in the middle.
Right.
And boy, was I wrong about how hard it'd be to meet in the middle because Caleb was just in one of his moods. And, like, so much so that after I, like, talked to him several times, he went upstairs and peed in a dump truck. Like, I'm like, what is happening in my life right now? And you're gone. And then while he peed in the dump truck, okay, mind you, you texted me.
This is the third time I've heard you tell it. I still.
And then he says, I didn't do it.
Yeah, it was the cat.
Who peed in the dump truck? Like, I know it wasn't me. I know it wasn't your brothers. I know you did this. And he was like, you know, his little Caleb walk.
Uh-huh.
So anyways, you texted me at the very moment that I found his pee in the dump truck, which you don't know this yet. And you're like, hey, babe. I'll be home around 7:30. Like, unless that's too late, you say the word, I'll be home in 12 minutes. And I'm like, oh no, it's fine, just behind. Because I didn't want you to know that I was struggling. I felt like our house was like in this huge war zone at the moment. Zeke at the very, like, he's waking up from a nap because he fell asleep. I didn't even know he fell asleep. I was downstairs doing laundry. I come upstairs. He's sleeping in the hallway because he was tired. So I'm like, buddy, come on, we gotta wake up. Like, dinner's almost done. Yeah. So I'm waking him up, and you know he gets emotional. So he's now crying. I'm looking at pee in a dump truck. You're texting me that you're gonna be a couple more hours, and I'm like, oh, it's fine. And so I get downstairs. Everybody gathers on the dinner table, and I'm like, okay, this is your moment, Allie. Just take a deep breath, and then we're just gonna tackle the upstairs. Like, once this is all done. Yeah. Shockingly, I had the downstairs picked up and done. And so we had dinner, and Caleb was just a terror through dinner too. And so I think that in that moment, like, in the best way, I just wanted to, like, strangle the kid. Yeah. But I looked at him and I was like, buddy, we got to start listening. Right. Dead in the face. You're rude. And then Brandon and I died laughing. And it wasn't really funny, but I think we were just so shocked by his just demeanor. Like, you're rude.
Tell him what happened next.
What happened next?
When you and Brandon did this?
Oh.
To try to hide your laughter?
Well, you know, as a parent, when you know your kid shouldn't be laughing at you, or you shouldn't be laughing at your kid, and they say something but you can't help but laugh, you just kind of, like, hide your face. So we're hiding our face, kind of pretending that we're almost, like, sad, okay? Yeah. But, I mean... You're
just so upset with this child.
Right. Low-key, we're laughing, so we're crying. But we're not even audibly laughing. Right. Okay? And then Caleb, you look over, and he's like, peekaboo! And I'm like, Brandon, like...
Brandon is no help in those situations. Because he's not the parent. He just laughs and laughs.
Yeah,
and
he
laughs.
thinks it's the funniest thing. And so, anyways, like when Josh got home, I could tell that you were in the presence of the Lord. I fully could tell because I was in such a bad mood. I didn't lash out on you, didn't say anything, but I remember you made a comment about, and it was a loving comment, but I could just tell you were just full of this, like, just this peace. And I'm like, yeah, it must be nice. I was not in the presence of the Lord. I didn't even get to listen to my AirPod music. I didn't even get to worship him. Like, I am fully the opposite. And I could just tell that you were just in that intimacy with the Lord. And it was just radiating it off for you and stuff. And I was just like, okay, well, you made a comment coming up the stairs. And you're like, well, what can I do for you? And I'm like, I don't know. You passed like 3 things you could have brought upstairs. It's not rocket science. And
you didn't say that though.
No, I think I did.
You said it in your mind. You said just pick something is what you said.
I said that?
Yeah.
I promise you I said what I thought.
Because this is when we were in our bedroom. And I said, hey, like, what can I do to help you? And you said, just pick something and do it.
I thought what I said, though, right now. I literally thought, it's not rocket science. You passed 3 baskets. You could have brought it upstairs. And because I was just in such a bad mood. And I promise you, I said that out loud. I must have thought it so loudly because I believe it to be true.
That's hilarious.
But your response was just so loving. And you just went downstairs and you came up and did it. And life isn't perfect. But no. I feel like parenting's hard, and then keeping your marriage
right
in a good spot. Like, here's the thing, the day's gonna come where we look back at this podcast or look back at stories or pictures of Caleb and his glory, and we see the man of God he is, that the Lord hasn't come before that, and he's gonna be fierce. I know it. He's gonna be used, and all our kids will be, but he's just gonna be used fiercely. God gave him that boldness for a reason, and I know that it's hard to raise, but I'm just trying to disciple him and not like harm that.
Right.
But I'm like, okay, God, you got to equip me in these moments because I feel like you gave me this son. I don't want to fail. I don't want to not disciple him properly, but like, I need your help.
We got to teach him how to biblically harness his fierceness.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, that day in particular, yesterday, I just laughed in my mind because I'm like, you could just tell that you were in that presence of the Lord, and you came home and you were just very loving and helpful, but I just wanted to hurt everybody around me and be like, don't even talk to me. I just want to go to bed. But
that's one of the biggest things for me here recently over the last probably year or so. I feel like the period you were talking about like 5 years ago, I feel like since then we've slowly gotten better and better and maybe stumbled back a little bit, but then picked right back up and kept going. But over the last 6 months of the year, that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed in our marriage is before, if I had to go do something or help somebody, a lot of the times I would feel not that you were mad at me for helping somebody,
right?
But I could tell that you weren't always fully behind it because you needed me at home.
Right. Where
now, and I don't really know how to explain it. You might be able to explain better your side, like your intent in doing it. But whenever I come here to the church to either work on a sermon or record a podcast or just my regular stuff, I genuinely never feel guilty about it because you never made me feel guilty, but it was just a natural, like, okay, I know that I feel and sense and understand that she would rather me not do this, but I know I have to. So there would be a guilt that would come in because of me, not because of you. And I don't feel that anymore. I just feel a genuine like love and support. Like, you don't just say, oh yeah, just go do your crap. It's like, no, you need to get, we argued yesterday. It wasn't a real argument. Or Friday, because I wanted to work on the kitchen island, and you're like, no, it's Friday. This is your day. Like, go do your stuff. You need to go do your stuff. You need to get this done. And that's the point in our marriage we've gotten to now where we go back and forth on, I want to bless you. No, I want to bless you.
Right.
And not in like an arrogant, like we're, trying to be showy way. It's a genuine, I want you to go to the church and get your stuff done. I know that you're working on the kitchen island for me because I asked for this, because I wanted this. And I want you to do what you need to do. And mine was, no, I want to get this done. I had this plan. I was thinking about this. I wanted to do this for you. And to me, that's one of the keys that we learned earlier on in our marriage, but it's becoming natural at this point.
Right. And I think that's what unconditional love really looks like.
Right.
Because I tend to like almost feel guilty when I see you putting my needs above yours. And I'm like, no, because I think that's the mothering part. And I think that's actually where women become dangerous to themselves. I think that so many times we will tell our spouse, and I don't know, maybe somebody needs to hear this, and this could be applied to dating or whatever. But you can tell your spouse, really marriage though, because when you get to this point in your marriage, it just looks different.
Yeah.
But you tell your spouse, hey, I need this from you. And then when they go to do it, you like push them back. And I'm not saying we do that. Like, I know we like play bigger back and forth, but like before I used to do that and I didn't realize I was actually hurting myself because I was refusing the love that I asked for because it's the mothering thing. We give of ourselves before anything else. And that's how God made us. And I truly believe that mothers are just awesome. Like, moms are awesome.
Moms are awesome.
And so are dads, but moms are really awesome too. And I feel like we have an ability to love so strongly that it outshines anything like that we ever want or need. Like, we will give everything to everybody around us in our home. Like that, I'm talking about anybody under your roof or in your boat. You give everything to. You will give your life jacket away because that's just how we are. Yeah. And so I feel like a lot of times as women, we can tell our spouse we need something, and then it's like, well, I can't receive it. Or you get so trapped in that guilt that you were talking about that you almost can't even enjoy what your husband's doing or enjoy that he's doing this for you. And in the back of your mind, you're painting this script of, well, he doesn't really want to do this, but he's doing this for me because maybe I said too much or whatever. But Friday was just an awesome day. Yeah. Like, we bickered back and forth, play bickering. We didn't argue, but it was just like, hey, why don't you go do your stuff? Yeah. Because I care about you. No, I'm going to do this because I care about you. And then you ended up finishing a project, and then we went boating with the kids and friends. And it was such a fun day. But then because we did fill our cups up, I mean, we both loved each other. Right. And we loved our children. Yeah. Then the next day, I feel like we had a very busy but productive day. I mean, everything that we would have had to accomplish on Friday got accomplished on Saturday, plus some. And if we would have done it Friday, I'm telling you, I think Saturday would have even been crazier because, you would have got some stuff done, but then we would have had no family time, and that cup's not full. Yeah. So I feel like that's what I'm talking about, the balance. You can eliminate fun all you want, but then everything you do is going to feel like a chore. It's going to feel like a headache, and it's going to take you 3 times the amount of time. Let the sand come in your house. I know you don't like sand, but it's like, let it be in your house. Go to the pool with your kids. Right. Let them eat all the snacks. Try to manage behaviors in your home. In that boat, I don't have an answer for you other than pray a lot. And try to fill your cup up. I literally will listen to AirPod. Like, I will put my AirPods in my ear and I will listen to worship music while doing laundry or something, because that's like the moment that I get just that intimate time where it's just like there's no noise in the background. Yeah. But just do the things. Like, I think balance is what you just said. And it sounds so cliche to say, like, oh, the key to happy marriage is balance. That's true, though. But it's so true. And it's not true the way that I think most people see it. Because one perfect example, the reason that I don't feel that internal guilt about doing the things that I need to do now is because we have gotten balance. So, like, on a day like yesterday, you are a talker, and I don't mean that you just yeah. I mean, you like to converse about things. Right. You like to talk, have a conversation, share ideas, flesh everything out. I am not a talker. I'm a thinker. Right. So I like to sit in silence and not talk to anybody and just think about things. Or if I thought enough for the day, I like to shut my mind off and only think about boring things that actually don't matter in my life whatsoever. Right. Like, that's just how it is. And I feel like we've come to a really good balance in that, where you like to talk about things so much that you used to, it was a constant text conversation. Right. And then I got home and then it was an in-person conversation. And that doesn't work in my brain. And so we've gotten you've gotten better about, and this, I'm not saying like I fixed you or that you've solved our problems or whatever. I want to say you got better. I don't want to sound bad or people think I'm being misogynistic or whatever. I trained you. Yeah. I feel like from my point of view, from receiving, things have gotten better about, I want and I need to talk about this, but we're going to talk about it when it makes the most sense. Right. And I've gotten better about, I don't want to talk about anything,
but I need to talk to her about these things.
Right.
And
to break that down, just before we get too far ahead of your point, because I know people are going to be like, what are they talking about?
yeah,
You're referencing to my understanding of like, if there's a problem or if I need something, not even just a problem, but just in general, like if I were to text you about, hey, I need these pictures hung up. Well, you're in the middle of a meeting at work or whatever.
right.
And then when you get home, it's like, I say, hey, I need this, and we're in the middle of dinner. Instead, I just find like, okay, hey, the kids are in bed, I need this hung up.
Right.
Just like, that's what we're
Yes.
referencing here. Or like, hey, if you want to have a conversation that's, deep, do it when you're together, because unless you're traveling or your husband's a truck driver,
Right.
call.
Yes.
We get that.
Right.
It looks different for everybody. That the reference of you said, everybody's ocean looks different.
Right.
That applies to
Yeah,
this conversation.
You have to find the balance in your ocean.
Right.
For some people, some men might rather have their wife call them
Right.
and tell them about it over the phone, and then just do do their thing when they get home.
Right.
I would rather be focused on what I'm doing outside the home, so that way I can be fully present in the home.
Right.
I have a weird brain. And so wherever I'm at is where I'm at, basically.
Right.
There's a saying, be where your feet are. That is me to a T. I'm
Right.
in every moment, and it drives you crazy because you're like, hey, what'd you guys talk about? I'm like,
Yes.
couldn't tell you, because that's how I'm getting all excited now.
Women are like that, not
Yeah.
just me.
Well, and
You guys know what I'm talking about when your husband gets home and you're like, hey,
Yeah.
what did you and so talk about? Oh, I don't know. You were gone for 5 hours and you have no idea what you talked about?
Jake and I'll go play golf for 3 hours. Oh, what'd you guys talk about? It's life.
Yeah. And if Chelsea and I go, I'm like, oh my goodness, we had the best conversation about parenting.
Yeah.
And like, we
You-
kind of bounce this idea off one another.
You have the ability to replay verbatim the conversation that you had.
Right.
And I struggle to remember the topic.
And it's not because you don't care.
Right.
It's just because you're in that moment. And like, obviously, like if you talk about like a life skill, yeah, you remember those things when that life skill needs to be applied.
And I think, and again, this is a generalization. This is not, I'm not sexist or anything like that. So it's not going to sound the way that it sounds, or it's not going to be the way it sounds. Men are thinkers and women are feelers.
Right.
And so when I feel something, I remember it better. It lasts in my memory. The trip to Chicago and catching a ball with Alex's glove.
Right.
I will never forget that moment for the rest of my life, because I
Right.
felt in that moment.
Right.
Where a lot of times throughout the day, I'm just thinking and not feeling.
Right.
And so things don't stick as much. Or women feel literally everything.
Right.
And so everything sticks. And so I think I think it's also true that like men are literal and women are emotional, again, generally speaking.
Right.
Where you feel everything, you process with emotions, and men are just like, okay, taking the facts, seeing
Right.
what's going on. And not every man is that. Some men are emotional feelers as well, and some women are logical thinkers and stuff like that. Everything crosses over, and I'm not saying women aren't logical. I'm not saying men have no feelings. But I feel like wherever you and I fall on those respective spectrums, I feel like we have found a good agreement and balance and understanding for the other person, and like we're talking about, like being able to put each other's needs and feelings and stuff ahead, where I think about, okay, like I know she's going to, I need to talk to her tonight. Hey, what list of projects do you got?
Right.
What's in order here? What's the order of importance? What do you want done first? That kind of thing, where I would normally just like, okay, this is easy to do. I'll just do it first.
Right. And we're not saying by any means that we've mastered marriage, because we constantly grow, which is why we say, man, we feel like we've
Right.
grown so much in just a year. And
Yeah.
they would look back at this podcast and be like, that's funny because you said your marriage is great. Yeah. And it's now even greater.
Right.
Because you can only continue to grow together.
That's
just
the
like,
beautiful thing about doing things with the Lord, is He
right.
takes you from
That's
glory
what
to
I was
glory
about
to glory.
Say. I was literally about to say, it's your relationship with the Lord.
Yes.
You just continue to grow, and you continue to learn, and you continue to be discipled. And
Yeah.
so it's same with your marriage, but like I lost my train of thought, but I was going to say something and then
I interrupted you.
it's okay. My mind went somewhere and now it went.
That was my fault.
That's
I
okay.
apologize.
No, I interrupt you all the time because I'm like, wait a minute. Don't lose
Well, I'm
it.
glad you said no.
Man, what was I going to say? It was something.
We're not masters on marriage, and people will see this and look back, and that's funny because you keep growing.
This is such a real moment in life right now.
I know.
That you try to remind your spouse like what you were saying.
Right.
I told you guys I need caffeine.
Yeah, and I've gotten better at this whole like regurgitating the last 30 seconds of the conversation, because I used to be like, huh?
It's
now
okay.
I can think back. That's okay.
I'm tired. I know.
Yeah. No, I feel you. We've been going for over 40 minutes, so it's longer than I had anticipated.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad because I'm like, what are we talking about? Just
Navigating
life
the waters
and
of
marriage. And I don't know. I do genuinely feel that if you are, this is what I was going to say. See, came back to me. Don't say things and it's going to, maybe I'm just kidding. You know, when we talked about just like the enemy, like trying to cripple you with fear, and he tries to get back in moments, and you actually brought that up in your sermon today about how the enemy will use anything, even in a promise God gives you. Like the enemy will try to come in those moments, which is what he's good at. But even in your marriage, I feel like he tends to do that in an argument that you might have, like, and I'm talking about like a stronghold in your marriage. And by stronghold, I mean like something that truly took captive, like captivated a moment in your marriage or a season in your marriage. Like that's what I mean by stronghold. And every couple has them. Like we've all gone through them. We've all conquered them. Giants per se, whatever reference you want to give that.
Yeah.
But I feel like whatever stronghold we had in our marriage, I actually remember this even just on the way to the Chicago trip. We got an argument, and it was
every time we go to Chicago, you're mad at me.
At least a start. Anyways, so we went to Chicago and we had just one of those arguments that had the same tendencies that previous arguments, 5 years ago in our marriage would have had, and it would have just dwelled and just negatively just left its mark in a lot of areas of just our life for months and months and months. And I remember we talked about it, and we both apologized, we forgave each other, we talked about it after the fact and all of those things. And you and I both even said, in that moment, it's almost like a fear of, well, is our marriage going back to what it was?
Right.
And I think a lot of times when you're in that spot where it's like, no, we conquered this, and then it tries to surface, you can convince yourself. You could literally have not had that issue for 5 years, or an argument like that in 5 years, and then it comes and it surfaces, and you can say, great, we're back to square one. This marriage sucks. And it's like, that's not at all true. But I think I want to say that just because marriage isn't perfect. No matter how you grow together, you're together. You are raising a family. Right. You better believe you're going to have arguments. You better believe you're going to be stressed. And you better believe that's something that your wife might do for you that's loving, or your husband might do that for you that's loving. Right. They're going to come home and they're going to bring baggage into the house that they shouldn't, and vice versa. And there's going to be moments where we are less than glorious in that day. And we just got to remind ourselves, like, it's life. Right. It does not define your marriage. It does not. No. Now, if you allow it to control or leave those imprints on your marriage, and that's when it becomes strangling. But I did want to say, we did argue. So just because we're saying that we have a great marriage, which we do, we're going to be the first to say, oh yeah, on a trip that winded up being amazing. Right. The beginning of it, did you think it was going to go that way? No. And the old, 5 years ago, our mindset, it would have tainted the whole trip, and we would have not enjoyed barely any moment of that trip. But yet we came together. So it doesn't mean that just because we say that our marriage is strong, because it is, I feel like we could withstand a lot of things. Yeah. Doesn't mean that we don't feel the winds of things. Right. But exactly. I think it's just learning,
learning each other and having that foundation of, I think the reason that a lot of marriages have big problems and end up failing, which, I mean, half of marriages end up in divorce nowadays, unfortunately. I don't think that the two individuals ever get to a place where they have a genuine foundation of trust for one another. Right. And I think that that's one of the biggest things. I genuinely don't think that we fully trusted each other like that for the first few years of our marriage. But I think that that's been one of the biggest breakthroughs for us, is going through horrible seasons, going through tough times, going through frustrations with each other and other people and family, and realizing that the last people we ever would have guessed stabbed us in the back or screwed us over or completely changed or pulled a fast one. And when the dust settles, we're always, you and I are still there. And I think that level of trust, achieving that level of trust with one another is what has kind of been the foundation of the growth that we've seen recently.
Right. It's so
and
true.
There's no formula to get that.
No. I think life is the formula.
Yeah.
Life.
You have to, and it sounds kind of weird. It's unconditional love is what you're talking about. You have to commit to loving somebody fully no matter what, even if you don't fully trust them.
Right.
And as they do the same and it's reciprocated back and forth, that trust builds and builds and builds and builds.
Right. I think it's the same, like, yeah, you trust your family, you trust your parents. Or when I grew up, my dad always said, you know, yeah, you'll have friends, but they'll come and go. Families for life. You know, brothers and sisters, they're your blood, they're life. Yeah. And it's true. But then when you get married, you're like, yeah, but are you really here for the long haul?
Right.
If this show that's ugly head, are you really here? And I promise you, and this is true for every marriage, I can 100% confidently say this. It is in your greatest struggle and your greatest loss that you will grow and strengthen your marriage.
Yep.
It sucks. Loss sucks. Struggle sucks. Yep. But in those moments, I mean, we were already doing really well, but then when we had that storm come through of my mom passing away, that was a huge loss. I had to navigate so much in that moment with a 1-month-old and going through it, like just recovering. Right. And then having something like so devastating come through like that, and knowing like, okay, like I've got my husband, and just knowing like we were there for each other. But in those moments, it was hard. Like it was like drowning. And then when you lost Alex, it was just, you can't explain it. Like you can't explain it, but it's like when you know that your spouse is there, no matter what it looks like, no matter how long it takes for you to heal, and there's just no pressure on that. And it's like, you go do what you need. Yeah. I'm here. Like, let's talk about this. I want to be with you. But like, if you need to go sit on Brenda's couch for 3 nights, you go do that. Like whatever that looks like, I think you figure out your people in life's hardest moments. And same with like friendships. Like, trust me, my closest friends today, never ever would I have thought it would be these people. And it's not because I didn't love them or whatever, but I never thought that if fire came down, those are the people that were standing by me. Yeah. I would have bet money that my bridesmaids would be the one. You know what I'm saying? Like when you even look back at your wedding, you're like, what? Yeah. Like half of these people we don't talk to anymore. Why?
It's true.
But it's true. And there's no judgment. I'm not upset about any of that. But it's just when push comes to shove, you really notice who your people are. And I think that, I agree with you. I think that life can throw you a lot of curveballs, but you got to make sure that you're coming together in unity at the end of the day. And I actually had a conversation. I want to briefly mention this. It has nothing to do with marriage, but I talked to somebody today, and they were talking to me about why they broke it off with somebody. And 2 things come to mind. One was my conversation with somebody that I'm not going to mention, but will know if they watch this. And I said, nope, can't be with that person. Can't be with that individual off of one statement and one statement alone. Well, they're not a believer. Okay. Well, done. You can be friends, but period. And I'm not going to take time to explain that, but I was like, there's no conversation after that. Like, okay, great. That's not the one. Let's move forward. But then I was talking to somebody today, and they told me that they, broke off their relationship because the other side didn't want to, get married, and this side did want to, be married and have a family. And, before you say, oh, it's definitely the woman. No, it looks different in every situation. But this individual that came to me was just like, I want to have a family. I want to, do all these things. And they didn't want that. Their relationship was great. No hard feelings. It was one thing that was a splitting factor for it. Yeah. And I was like, you know what though? Good for you for knowing that about yourself, because we asked each other hard questions. I remember being like, this man's going to leave me because I'm giving every red flag. You know how men will, like, seriously, like in high school, I I remember like all the guys getting together and talking, all the women getting together and talking, and the women were like, okay, if you want so-and-so on the football team like you, don't ask him these questions. They'll think you're needy or pushy or whatever. Like, it's a red flag if you ask these questions. If you ask, like, do you want to be a husband? And I was like, these losers aren't for me, because I'm not about to waste my time. And I remember like one of our first conversations, I was like, do you want to be a dad? Do you want to be a husband?
Right. What
does that look like for you? Like, it was almost like I was interviewing you, and I didn't mean it in that way, but it was just, these are like, I want to be a wife. I want to be a mom. I want to raise my children. And if you don't want those things, no harm done. But I don't want to fall in love with somebody and then have to break it off because of this. And, you know, those aligns. But I remember prior to, you know, meeting you and stuff and moving here, I was in a relationship, and I asked the guy, I said, do you want to be a husband? Do you want to have kids? Oh, I want to get married, but I don't want kids. Okay, see ya. Yeah. Nothing wrong with the guy. Super sweet, polite, respectful, didn't want kids. Yeah. Well, that's a deal breaker for me. And maybe one day that guy will have kids with somebody, but it wasn't going to be with me, because I knew that I wanted that, not at that moment, but I wanted that. And I wasn't going to risk being in a relationship for 9 years. And then, well, you still don't want kids? Well, great. I wasted 9 years of my life, and now I'm miserable. Yeah. So even just things like that,
Thanks for being honest, bro. Whoever you are.
But just things like that, though, like, I think that it's great to talk about those things if you're not married. Right. Listen, before you marry somebody and even go through life, okay? Yeah. Make sure it's the one. Like, pray about it first. Ask the questions. Yes. I think I've said that on every podcast. Ask the questions, but it's so true. Like,
ask every question that you can possibly think of, and then ask 4 more.
Right. And if a guy can't handle that, bye. Yeah. And if vice versa, if you're and I think it's how you approach it, but if you're a gentleman and you go up to a woman and you're like, hey, do you want to have kids with me today? Yeah, she's probably not going to come back to talk to you.
Probably not.
But if you express the desire on your heart to be a father and to be a husband, and these are callings that God has given me, because those are callings, like, contrary to belief, I knew God called me to be a mother. And I'm so thankful that I know that, because on the days where I'm like, oh my goodness.
When Caleb pees in a dump truck.
Right. I go back to this is what I prayed. Right. I remember as a child praying for my children. Me too. I was 9 years old, and I vividly remember having a conversation with Lindsay. And I said, Lindsay, I just want to be a mom. Yeah. She's like, yeah, I mean, maybe I want to be a mom too, you know, but we were so opposite. And she's like, we're 9. Like, why are you talking about being a mom? I'm like, I just know that I just want to be a mom. Like, always was my heart. And so then Brandon was my real life baby, but, and I raised him too, but like, which is why we're so close. But, you know, ask the questions, make sure you pray about everything. But I feel like life is crazy no matter where you're at in life, single, married, 100%. Engaged, dating. Yes. It's crazy. And I feel like if you are alone and you don't have a spouse, you can absolutely have the same peace. Right. You just go to Jesus. And we should all be doing that regardless of what season we're in.
That's what I was going to say next.
But seek him first. If you're not seeking the Lord first, none of what we said is ever going to apply to you. No. You're going to have just misery, because you're not having your foundation's Christ. Everything under that is secondary.
The key is following Christ, seeking him, and learning exactly what the verse means when it says that Christ did not come to be served, but to serve. Right. And when you understand that being Christ-like is being servant-like, and whenever being the leader of your home is serving your home, and being a good mom is serving your kids, and being a good boss is serving your employees, everything. We have issues when we turn to pride, and we have success when we turn to service. Right. And that's as basic and simple as I can make it. Marriage, parenthood, friendships, any dating relationship, work, professional relationship, if you serve other people well, you will do well in life. Right. In whatever arena that's in, and whatever ocean you're on. Right. If you serve your crewmates, here we go with the analogy again.
That's okay.
You'll be good to go.
Right. I think on some podcasts when you talk about, seriously, at that funeral, which is so weird because you don't think you would take something from a funeral, like from the message part. Right. But I mean, I just try to tell myself, like, I don't care how long this funeral goes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care how short or how long. This is their goodbye to their family.
Yes.
And I think when you really sit back and you listen to people share about the life. I didn't know the gentleman, but I was there for obviously somebody else that I care for and love, and so I was there as support to her. But when one of the brothers came up and shared this, the guy that passed away. He had cancer in his life and all these things, but he was a pastor for so long, and just like, it was actually very beautiful to sit there and to just hear about this man's life. And I was literally just digesting it all and like absorbing all the information, because I didn't know him. I never had the privilege to sit under his like pastorship, or I wasn't a child to him, or I wasn't a friend to him or whatever. And by the time I knew this person who lost their dad, he already had Alzheimer's. And so I never knew the version that they were sharing on and stuff. And one of the things he was talking about was when his father got cancer. And he brought up a beautiful scripture about how, and I wish I remember which one he referenced exactly, but it was talking about how we are, like, we would give God glory for everything in our bodies, the good, the bad, all of it, and how God wastes nothing. And it was just so beautiful, because I was sitting there thinking, like, there are so many people that I know, and this is so off topic, but we need to talk about this on a podcast. Like, just, when you hear people say like, well, why me? Why my family? Why did I lose my husband to this? Why did I lose my wife to this? Why did I lose my mom? All these things. And this one scripture, I feel like there was so many he shared, but this one scripture summed it all up for me. And the way they shared about this man's life, truly, and I texted her, I said, the service was so beautiful, and I don't think she realizes how beautiful it really was. I think maybe that she just thinks that's like a formality that somebody would say that. Right. Like, oh yeah, thank you. Like, she responded really well, but like, it was just, I think people just say that, but it was a beautiful honor to the man who's now in glory, right? But they honored him in a beautiful way, and just his life had such purpose. And when they were talking about his journey with cancer and just how he gave glory to God, and he was healed from it, like God healed him from it, but even when he didn't know it, he gave God glory in every moment. And I think that would be a powerful podcast to really dig deep into scripture and apply that, and not just share like a moving story that would make you emotional, but really pull out scripture, because that's truth. We can all share stories, we can all share testimonies, but going to the scripture, applying it to our life, and seeking the truth. Right. I think that would be a powerful podcast to come on and really dig deep into scripture. It might be boring to some people, but I think really pulling scripture from the Bible. I love talking about life. I love talking about our kids and our marriage, but I would like to pull some scripture and talk about.
I'm so down.
Yeah, just talk about that and apply it. Like, sometimes I read scripture and I'm like, what does that even mean? But I'm like, that's what that means. Yeah. Like, that's how we apply that. Like, the good, the bad, that's how we apply that. And your sermon today, I think it woke a lot of people up. Like, you pulled scripture and you were like, and this is what this means. This is not condemning. We can read that and we can be so confused, but it's like, when you break it down, it makes so much sense. Yeah. And so I feel like, whether I come with scripture or you come with scripture, or we both do, and some questions on like, hey Josh, like, how did you apply this in your life, or how would you apply? I think that would be just a fun conversation, deep conversation about how to apply truth from the word into our life.
Heck yeah.
So
type that in your phone while I'm telling these people bye.
No, I can't. My phone's over there.
Oh, okay. Are we getting ice cream after this?
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting ice cream. So I love that idea though, that podcast. So I'll type that in my notes here when we're finished. So, am
I still your favorite guest, or is Pastor Daryl?
I don't know, Pastor Daryl, Brother James.
Debating.
I think you snuck it out just barely.
I don't know. I saw you and Pastor Daryl laughing a bunch, and I'm like,
We did have a good time. I'll have me some Pastor Daryl. He's awesome.
Yeah. Well, he better watch to this moment right now, and call out his wife and say that we should all
yes, the four of us need to get together for sure.
Yeah.
And today, shout out Pastor Daryl. Today was their first church service for Destination Church that they just launched. Today they had a service at the park in Charleston. So congratulations.
And he has social media too. I don't know how to like plug that, but he's a funny guy, but he shares some good solid truth. And
I'll do my best to put the link to his YouTube channel in the description again.
He's pretty legit.
If you watch, he and I think did episode 31 together.
Right.
So if you watch episode 31 or 32, those should both have his YouTube link in the description of the video.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I had it in there for 2 weeks in a row, and I'll try to add it to this too. But yeah, he's awesome. Mm-hmm. But yes, you're my favorite.
Okay.
Because, I mean, none of those other guests are going to rub my back when we get home. So
I thought you were going to say something so different. I'm thinking, okay, well.
You told me we're not allowed to talk about that on here.
Yeah, well.
Anyways. So we're going to go get some ice cream on our way to get our children because Mama and Papa got to leave in an hour. So that gives us plenty of time to do that. Thank you guys for watching, especially, like Ali just said, if you got to this point in the video. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notifications if you have not done that. If you want to help support what God is doing through the Preach That podcast and our ministry here as a couple, you can go to Patreon. The link is in the description of this video and all my other videos. It's $5 a month. It's super cheap, and you can support what he's doing here. There's other levels of there's 3 different options that have different perks and all that kind of stuff. You can also go to the merch store, which I need to buy some stuff to make sure.
I can't believe you haven't.
Well, I keep forgetting to talk to you about it.
I told you to buy it.
Okay, I'll buy some when we're done.
Okay.
But go to the merch store. There's hats, T-shirts, hoodies on there. It's a limited quantity of things and designs currently, but hopefully I'll be able to keep expanding that as things start to sell. It's made and printed to order, so it's going to take probably a couple weeks to get to you.
So be patient.
So be patient, but hopefully it's worth it. We're going to find out. I'm going to order some stuff, and if it's trash, I'll let you know so you don't spend your money on it, and I'll find a different platform to make the stuff for us.
Right. So, so don't go buy it right now. Subscribe to Patreon, I guess, because we'll order it on the next podcast. You can say if it's legit.
I'll rock it.
Okay.
If it's good.
Right.
We got stuff for our church from there before, and
I thought it was good quality.
There was one thing that didn't work out well that was not good, but I think it was just a fluke because other T-shirts that were the same were fine.
Right.
And so, but yeah, the hoodie that we got from there was super comfy.
Right.
The T-shirt, long sleeve T-shirt, super comfy.
Women it's harder.
Girl, I'm telling you. You know your favorite T-shirts?
Yeah.
The comfort colors? Mm-hmm. That's what these are.
Well, that's great, but I'm saying
I specifically picked comfort colors because they're
I'm gonna order
balling.
one too because I'm telling you, women are pickier and the fit matters. So
that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
This is really not a plug. This is just a natural.
This is just a conversation.
Right. So don't order it, I guess, quite yet. But
okay, listen,
sorry.
Don't buy anything.
Well, we haven't ordered it.
I give the caveat every time that I haven't bought anything, so order at your own risk until I endorse this particular platform that I'm using.
Right. Okay, so we'll order and then.
So we're going to get off here. We're going to get our children first.
Okay.
No, we're going to get ice cream first.
Ice cream children order.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching so much. Thank you for having this idea to do this together.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I love you.
Love you too.
I have fun with you. Keep being nice to me and everything will be fine. I'm just kidding. No, you're always nice to me for the most part.
For the most part.
Yeah, for the most part. So thank you guys so much. Please share this if you would like to. So all those links are also in the link tree in the description. If you go to the one that says linktree / whatever it is, Pastor Josh MC, something like that, it'll have all of those. So one-stop shop. It's got TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Patreon, and the merch all in the one link. So that's the easiest way to do it. But there will be some other individual links in there as well. So with that being said, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir,
for joining me. And thank you, ma'ams and sirs, that watch this. We appreciate you guys. Like I said last time, if one person watches this and it inspires them, encourages them, uplifts them to make a difference in their marriage or their relationship with their kids, then it's worth it. I'm cool with it.
Amen.
But share it so thousands of people do. We love you guys. We'll see you on the next one.